All right, guys, and there you go. We just wrapped up our playthrough of Ankh. It was a pretty good game. What I think we're going to do is we're going to do 2 videos, the playthrough and then add this review that we're doing now, but then also separate and put the review on a separate video if you guys just want to watch that. But it was definitely a good game. I feel like I was coming back towards the end there, but the event triggered and I was still in the red space. It came down to that one territory, that region 4, and then yeah, you just squeaked it out in the blue spot.
Yeah, and it may have seemed like just a fluke, but like for like 45 minutes, I may have already mentioned this, I was really trying to figure out a way like how I could strategically die and make it in my benefit so that I could, even if it is barely squeaking out of the red zone, it still freaking counts, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know?
For sure. Yeah.
And
who do we have here?
So this is Booster, also known as Boo or Booty Bay. And as you can see, he's a cat. Now, typically, when we play a game, he likes to lay almost on the board. But we try to lock him out for the playthroughs. But for this game in particular, he really had something to say. He was yelling at me when we took a pause after I won the game because he really didn't see that cat representation that you would expect in this Egyptian-themed game. Now, yes, there was the cat mummy guardian, right? In ancient Egypt, cats were, partners with the Egyptians, and then eventually looked at as guardians. But for instance, Isis, Queen of the Throne, Protectress, I don't even see a cat depicted on her shield. Now, come on, people. Like, look at his face. Like, it should be on a shield. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I really thought this game was awesome, and it's not just because I won.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to say about it. So let's just jump in. Let's talk. First up, let's talk the components. CMON game. So you guys already know the mini quality is very high, especially the gods here. The gods look fantastic. This is my favorite Anubis right here. I just think he looks absolutely sick. But Osiris looks cool. All of them look really cool, and even the warriors that come for them. Really
even the
high
camels.
quality.
I mean, the detail, like the detail in the little sticks, and like there's even like you can see the twine or rope or whatever that's holding the sticks in place. And what's super cool is besides the monuments, all of this, like the figures and everything, which I think really helped make the game come in the standard version of the game.
Well,
right?
so there's a few things. So we're playing, most of this stuff is the core game, but there are a few Kickstarter exclusives. Like all of these monuments, these 3D monuments are in the Kickstarter. The core game comes with, they're just flat cardboard tokens that sit on the board. Now, I was kind of worried when I heard about that because I thought it was going to be hard to see. And in this game, you really want to be able to see the monuments because it's important, right? When you go from region to region. But those cardboard tokens are pretty big, and it's like it's a yellow and black, but you can see it pretty easily, and they are fairly large. So it's not like a rising sun where you have like the turtle stronghold where you really need to be able to see that. While it is better to be able to see it, I do think the standard cardboard tokens that come in the core box are pretty good.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So the standard cardboard tokens, are they all the same color, or do they have different colors for the different types?
It's all red and not red, yellow and black, but they have different shapes as well. Okay. So not only are they large and they have an image of the monument on there, but like the obelisk would look like one type of shape, the temple and stuff like that.
Because I was going to say, just like, even though these are 3D and like I don't have the best eyesight or whatever, they still, because we haven't painted them yet, they still kind of blend all together. Like you still have to like really take a double take. Like, wait, which monument is this? So it's like, well, I feel like you'd almost, if you don't have these painted, you'd almost have the same kind of experience visually.
That's why some of the stuff, like there were other tokens for these action markers. But I didn't use those because these already have artwork on them, but they were the same kind of plastic that comes with it.
Yeah, and you don't even really look at, I didn't even notice the differentiation in the images because I'm just looking at where they are on the track.
Right.
I mean, maybe if you're right in front of them, it's different, but.
Yeah. The tokens, these are Kickstarter exclusives as well, so that you won't get these plastics. They are just some regular cardboard tokens as well. But basically, besides that, I mean, we are kind of using, these are cardboard thick tracks, and there are just, in the core game, there are just regular kind of cardstock pieces of paper like these as well. You guys might recognize these, like the Blood Rage player mats, kind of same deal with all of these player mats as well. And like I said, the devotion and actions and events track are all that going to be that paper.
And may
but
I
it's
just
fine.
make like one point about the followers? So yeah, if you don't have that like expansion with like the heavy weighted followers, it's not like it's, you know, a currency where it like feels good to have like those like hard tokens. It's like, you know, you don't typically, I feel like, have that many of them in your possession, and they're kind of off to the side, and you like when you use them, you like use up, you know, a lot of them. So I feel like that wouldn't really be all that necessary. And then having this with like these cardboard things, I mean, yeah, like they could slide, but these are actually pretty solid. They don't really slide that much. And like, it's not like it's a tracker. So if one slides off, like you're going to remember most likely like which power you selected, and you know that there's only 2 per thing. So like there's not a lot of room for error there. Right.
The board itself, I really like the board. At first, when I was looking at it online, I thought it would be, I didn't think it was going to be as detailed, but it's very pretty. A lot of detail on it, like even all the sands, the water, the fertile lands, whatever. Everything is really nice.
Yeah, and it has those fun details. Like, I forget the game right now that had like, you know, little scenes.
I think it was Scythe.
Yeah, maybe Scythe. It all goes back to Scythe, right?
Yeah.
If not Talisman.
The Guardians, there are, I believe, there's 6 different types of Guardians, all high quality minis as well. I really like these. There's 3 large minis, and then 3 of those, 3 other ones are smaller. But these are really nice.
Again, lots of detail.
Yeah, lots of detail. So overall, the components in the core game, we did use some Kickstarter stuff, but the components are really high quality. I really like it. All right, so let's just go into some things that we liked about the game. First up, I really like this actions track. I like that it scales pretty well. You know, you place these tokens on the, you know, it indicates what number of players, and you place it on that slot, and then you just move them down, you know, on whatever, for whichever action that you take. And then when it gets to the end, it triggers an event. I think this is really fast, and I think this is where a lot of strategy comes into play, because sometimes, you know, you might take an action that you might otherwise not want to take on that turn because it might trigger an event, giving you, you know, the benefit of the event so that your opponent doesn't get that. I like that part. Or there was one time during the game, I actually took 2 actions that I didn't necessarily want to take. So then it actually set me up so that Lauren would actually have to take 2 other actions, allowing so she wouldn't trigger an event, and then I would on my following turn. So I think that's where a lot of strategy is involved, where otherwise it might look like it's just simple moving these tokens down the track. What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree with that. I think, like Andrew just said, on the surface it might seem pretty simple, but a lot of strategy comes into play, specifically with that tracker, and it does help move the game along in a really good, balanced, steady, quick but not too quick pace.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's one thing that I really like is I like the pace, right? I feel like it's just, okay, action, your turn. Right?
Yeah, because I think like there is a lot of strategy to this game, and again, it might not seem that way on the surface, but there is, and a lot of games that are set up this way, I feel like sometimes the board is like twice the size, and it can kind of drag a little bit. But this game, I think it's a nice concise board, concise tracker, good balance of action, motion, etc.
Action and motion. So let's talk about the events. So I like this. This is like the clock of the game, right? There's only 3 different types of events, and most of those are gain control of a monument. And I like that. The monuments is pretty much how you get devotion throughout the game. So the monuments is very important. But even that being said, you know, like we just mentioned, it's like boom, boom, move, it's the other player's turn. Well, if you trigger an event, most of the time, the event isn't going to take long either, right? You just move this tracker down. Oh, are you next to a neutral monument? Yes, you are. Is this the one you want to take control of? Put your marker there. Boom, reset this. It's the next player's turn.
And I do really like how with this tracker and this tracker and, you know, the battle steps and the actions, it's like everything seems very controlled, but it doesn't feel like you're too controlled. So that eliminates like all that time. I mean, there's enough time like sitting there trying to strategize. But you know, it's like you don't have this plethora of like being able to like have all these options every single turn. So it's like you can only battle, you know, these times. You can only take monuments these times. So it's like there's a nice element of control so that it controls the length and it doesn't allow the game to go completely off the rails in terms of, you know, being too long or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it's a good speed. And even the actual event or the conflicts where a lot of the devotion happens, where you gain a lot of devotion, that's kind of the longest event, right? There's a lot, that's a very important step. But even that sometimes, I mean, are there any figures in that region? No, move on. Are there any figures in this region? Yeah, there's only one type of figure. They dominate the region, they get devotion. And is there any figures in this? Yes, there's 2. Battle happens. Play cards, determine strength, and move on.
Yeah.
So even this, the longest event, still doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome.
Right. And if you do happen to lose a lot of your figures during the battle, it's not like it's not so devastating, right? Like they don't go into Valhalla or wherever, you know, and, you know, you just, unless it's Anubis who's taking them, and even then it only costs 1 follower to get them back. You know, they're just put back on the side and then you can summon them, you know, pretty quickly afterwards. So again, and sometimes clearly there's benefits, that's all I want, for dying or having your figures die, but it's not completely devastating if in one region all of your figures die in one battle.
Right. So another thing that I kind of like is the god abilities, right? You have the Ankh powers, and what I like about that is everybody has the same Ankh powers, but they only have one unique ability, and these abilities are quite different. Osiris plays underworld tokens where no monuments and enemy figures can take part. I think no, this isn't Amon. Ra, he actually, when he summons figures, he summons them with a token, and if he wins that battle, he actually gets an extra devotion for that. Amun, I'm getting them all mixed up, can play 2 battle cards in 1 battle per the conflict. That can be pretty big. And then we each had our own unique things. I really like Isis, you know, having figures adjacent to enemy figures, they can't die.
Yeah, but just on that point, I think it's cool that they can't die, but if you choose to allow them to die, you can.
Right.
It's pretty awesome.
Because that can be big. Or Anubis can actually capture enemies and he becomes stronger throughout. So I like that bit. But more particular, I like the Ankh powers because what I think this provides is, hey, everybody has the same things that they can achieve, but how do you want to play this game, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to get these? But not only that, these aren't that expensive, so it's kind of easy to get these throughout the game. And in addition to that, you get to get guardians if you land on or unlock certain spaces. So I think it's pretty cool.
I really love the level playing field when it comes to the cards and your board, because again, like the only difference that everyone has is the power of their god, and none seem to really have an OP ability, right? So it's like it really takes your own mind to really dominate this game. But like I would actually use a different word than dominate, because it doesn't, I mean, maybe some people could dominate this game, but I feel like it can be such a close game. Like, because if somebody's dominating the game, that's not any fun for anybody. I mean, the person dominating might be having fun, but at the end of the day, like, they don't want to just plow through everyone, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, these I do really like this. I like this. Everybody can be a little bit different by the game's end. I really like that. So you can play differently a little bit each time. The Guardians, I will say, in my experience, they haven't had a huge impact on the game. It's not like some of the other monsters from like Blood Rage and Rising Sun where, you know, some of them can just be devastating in combat. Some of them are, right? Like I did have the Cat Mummy, who if they die, you actually lost a devotion, or the Scorpion, which I think is one of the best ones. At the start of a conflict event, it just obliterates a monument. But it's also not the best because I feel like in this game in particular that we highlighted, I got all the Guardians.
He had all the Guardians and he lost. But I kind of like that because, again, Andrew got all of the Guardians. And a lot of that is dependent on, actually, is all of it dependent on the tracker and what gets triggered?
Well, you just unlock
so it does depend on your choices. Yeah, I don't know. But I do kind of like, it's like this little extra little bonus, but it doesn't allow you to completely dominate the game.
Right. And I think that's what I'm trying to say is like the bonus didn't feel like it was that big.
Yeah, like it was like a little bit.
But
they have the same strength, which I also liked.
Yeah. But so if you are a fan of like, hey, I got a Guardian, right? Like, I want them to come on the board and I want them to do something big. Well, some of them can, but it's not going to be a game changer like I feel other monsters in other games are.
And I feel like they could have done that and the game still would have been good, but I feel like if they did do that, they would have needed to make it a little bit more difficult to get them, but then maybe they could have made them have like 2 strength instead of 1 or like some other special thing. But I feel like it would have only been good if it was a little bit more difficult to get them, or like if they didn't have limitations on like, you know, who could get them. Like if they were like, I could conquer 1 or
like I do think it's like, oh, if
recruit 1,
if all of the Guardians have been taken up in this game and I can't get any, I would be a little bummed. Right? Like, I do want to get something like this out. I do. I do
it's just
like it.
fun to have, like, a cool extra creature, if nothing else. It's just cool to have, like, this little extra thing.
That's exactly what I'm saying. But, that being said, if you don't get any, it's not a huge impact. They do have a little bit better benefits than, you know, your regular warriors, but it's not a game breaker.
Yeah, and also, it's like you're limited to how many figures you have, so it's, if nothing else, an extra figure, an extra presence on the board.
Right. Let's talk about the combat cards real quick. This is something else that I really like. Again, it's kind of like the Ankh powers, right? Everybody's kind of the same. Everybody has the exact same cards, and you play one simultaneously. And these aren't that crazy, right? They're minor differences. I mean, most of them are just add 0 or 1, but they do something slightly different. But what I really like about it is, hey, you can look at the opponent's discard pile. So you can say, okay, this region upcoming that we're going to have a battle in, I know they're not going to be able to play this card. So I am going to be able to play this card, and I am 100% going to win on strength.
Yeah.
Right? You can play like that, and I really like that.
Yeah, and just, sorry, real quick to that point, it's like some people might think that, oh, that's like, you know, that makes it too easy, but I feel like it really doesn't because, in all honesty, most of the time, like, my mind didn't even get there. Like, you know, I feel like, yes, in some scenarios, of course it would, but it's not like that's something that you would even need. Like, even if you had to, like, place them face down so you couldn't remember what the other person did, I feel like, you know, they were just fair, and you don't have to pay to play any.
Yeah, but if they were face down, that would take away from, to me, a lot of strategy, because then you could say, hey, these are what they can't play.
It would, but I'm saying, like, I don't feel that that's essential because, like, I did win the game, and, like, I didn't take that into account in my strategy. Now, granted, yes, it's a huge, you know, plus, it's great, but, like, I feel like if anyone were to look at it being like, that makes it too easy, I don't think it does, because I feel like you don't need that, and you don't.
Yeah, I didn't think it made it too easy.
I feel like you don't need to use it as much as you might assume that you do in order to.
Yeah, but even if you see what they've played, you don't know what else they're going to play.
Right, like you can't predict like what they're going to play.
I did look at your cards a few times to say, hey, you can't play this card now.
Right.
That's why I am going to play it. So
I feel like it's helpful, but it's not like too much that it makes it like lame.
Oh,
or too easy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's a good like.
Well, for sure. Yeah. But that's something that I really liked, and you know, you play all your cards, and then you have that one card that gets them all back. So you can potentially play that on a battle that you're just like, hey, I'm either gonna stomp this, right, or I'm just gonna lose. So now's the time because I have another battle coming up, and I want to get some of those other cards.
Yeah, and it's not like a stack of cards. It's a limited number of cards. You don't have to worry about like, oh, I can only have X number of cards in my hand. I have to get rid of one, yada yada. And they don't make it very difficult to get the cards back. Right. But I do like, except for that one god, like you can only play one card per battle. But like you don't. It's not like what is a use it or lose it for that turn. Right. But yeah, I don't know. I think they did a good job, and you know, they have cards for different types of scenarios. Like they have cards that benefit you if you win, and they have cards that benefit you if you lose the battle, which I also like because it really helps with like, because the red zone of the devotion track is almost the entire devotion track. So you know, you need different opportunities to get devotion and not just necessarily ones where you're winning a battle. Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about some things that maybe we didn't like. Now, I've played the game in a 3-player game, all right? And let's just get the elephant out of the room, the merge, right? This is a pretty controversial thing with this game. I respect the idea. I do. I think it's such a cool idea. It's unique, right? Being able to 2 of the last place gods merge into one, and you both kind of take on the role of that single god. You both have a turn controlling it. You still have the 2 turns, but each person now takes a turn for that. Now, again, I like the idea, but I don't like to play it. I don't think it's fun. I don't like something, and that takes place exactly 2/3 after, like, into the game. So I don't like the idea of me playing and making all my certain moves and stuff like that only to merge with somebody else, and now they're controlling my stuff, or maybe I'm controlling somebody else's stuff. It's kind of my opinion, like, hey, look, you played a certain way, it just didn't work out, right? But that's just kind of the game. It's a catch-up mechanic, right? So, like, if 2 people are in last, it's kind of like saying, hey, we're going to try to get you so that you can still, you know, get to the finish line or possibly win. I just don't think it's fun. I don't personally like it, just because, like I said, I don't like the idea of, like, if somebody else merged with me, them controlling all of my stuff. All the moves that I made, it's like now they're controlling my stuff. Now, you can communicate with them, right? You could say, okay, well, let's go here, right? Or let's play this battle card. But they don't have to listen to you, right? So they can actually just do whatever. So again, I respect the idea, but I don't think it's fun. I don't like it at all.
And I just wanted to say, so I haven't played with more than just the 2 of us.
Right.
I would love the opportunity to play with a 3rd person so I can experience it. But what I will say to that, though, because I can't really say much because I haven't played it, but maybe I wonder if you would feel differently if maybe halfway through it happened instead of 2/3 of the way, and then, hold on, I'm not finished. And then, like, say if you got to 2/3 of the way, then you could decide whether to stay together or break apart. Or something like that, where it's like you merge together for a little bit, and then if it's not working out, you can, like, kind of like thematically, it's like, okay, you might like stumble across each other and be like, okay, dude, like this third, you know, this one god is dominating us, so why don't we try to join forces? Okay, great, let's try. And then, you know, you get to a certain point and it's like, this is working out,
Yeah, I
or
got
this
you.
is not working out. Like we tried, let's go our separate ways.
No, I got you.
I just wonder if
I don't think
maybe
so.
you would feel different. Okay.
I don't think so, because when I'm playing the games, I don't care what game it is. I'm making the certain moves, whether they're right or wrong, or they're the best possible move or not. They're my moves, right? And I take ownership of them, and I'm like, hey, look, I think this might be cool, right? Or even if it's not the best move, I'm making moves maybe because it's fun for me.
Right.
When somebody else comes over and they're like, well, you're actually going to move this, we're going to move this guy here. And I'm like, oh, but no, I wouldn't have done that, right? Even if it's right or wrong, I still want the ability to control that.
So what if it had to be like a joint decision instead of like you guys are one, so to speak, but you can each move like separately, as you're saying? Like, then it's like you either agree or like something has to happen, or like it's a joint decision, not just one person's decision.
But I don't see how that would. I don't know.
I'm just like throwing it out there.
I just, for me, again, I respect the idea. It's just not fun for me. So what I would do probably is I probably just wouldn't play with that mechanic in the game, right? Now, there are multiple scenarios in the game. So we set up a certain scenario. There are other scenarios, like for 2 players, 3 players, not just this. We had a certain setup at the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. And I think some of those scenarios don't have the merge mechanic. I haven't seen them. But I think, if I was going to approach another 3-player game, I would go, hey, look, there is this mechanic in there that once we get to a certain point, 2/3 into the game, you would merge gods. Like 2 players would merge. Do we want to play as that with that or not? And I would offer that option.
Yeah, and maybe it could be something where like, you bring like the dice rolling out, which I just am now realizing like there was no throwing of dice in this game, which I've been so used to that being in even the smallest element. So maybe like that element can come in like, okay, we're going to throw the dice to see if we're going to merge or not. Or like instead of merging, there's some other kind of quote unquote catch up element that like, okay, if you're like behind like this, section on the tracker, you can do this or that to get up here, or you don't have to do anything to get up here, but then this or that happens. So there's some kind of sacrifice to get you a little bit further. So you're not completely left in the dust, but you're not getting an unfair advantage. Something other than merging.
Yeah, maybe. I just, again, that's how I would play. And I think that's how I'm going to do it from now on for a 3-player game or more. Hey, look, do we want to play this with this? Yes or no? And if people want to do that, that's fine. It could be interesting with different people, playing with that mechanic. But me personally,
like it might work in somebody's benefit.
Well, that's the idea, right? The idea is to have 2 different god powers, right? Being able to do that.
The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right. But me personally, I'm just not a fan. I'm just not a fan of the work that I did throughout the game now just being taken over, right? So that's one thing. Another thing that I would have liked to have seen was just more guardians, more types of guardians. There are quite a bit of the models themselves, but because there has to be more than one sculpt, right? But I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more, maybe like 2 more different types of guardians. Because right now you have 6 to choose from, maybe 7 or 8, but that's not even that big of a deal. But yeah, I think those are the only 2 maybe that I would have seen slightly changed. What about you? Is there anything that you didn't like?
That's a great question.
If not, that's quite all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I made my opinion about the whole cat. Well,
let's move on to
portion clear, but no, like, I mean, honestly, it would have been nice to be able to have another opportunity to gain the
Guardians.
Guardians.
Yeah, I agree.
but I really can't think of much else that I really think it does a great job of balancing things. And I do also, even though I kind of griped about it during the game, this token to break the tie, I do like that you have to use it there.
Yeah.
And that someone can't just hang on to it until it benefits them.
Right.
I really do like that.
Right. Well, so now let's get into just maybe some overall final thoughts. Just give a brief overview, maybe one or two things that you really enjoyed, and just, kind of what you think about the game.
All right. So visually, I think the game's awesome. I think the speed and the flow of the game, also awesome. It seems simple, but there's a lot of strategy involved, which makes it challenging, especially depending on who you're playing with. But though there's strategy involved, it doesn't drag. And the tables can turn quickly enough. And I really like that, again, the standard game comes with like all these really awesome figures. And just something that I wanted to point out, if you are someone who your significant other, your friends or family, like you're trying to like get them to like want to play the game, like for instance, Isis, Queen of the Throne, like reading her description, I really, related to her. So it's like, you might say to your wife, your girlfriend, whoever, like, hey, like, let's play this game. And like, it's a cool, Egyptian theme, and we can like drink these like cool themed drinks, or, dress up in this way if they're into that, and be like, like this person's really badass and they really reminded me of you. And then like if there's like a character, like a cat in the game or a dog in the game, and they like kind of resemble like their pet, paint them to make them look like their pet. Just these little things where like you kind of get them into it. And then once they're playing the game, like more than likely they're going to be having fun. So like the more they can relate to the game in these little silly ways, like I think, and then again, like this game is fun and it's easy to pick up. It's not too challenging, but it's not like unchallenging. So I really loved this game.
Yeah, on the pet thing, I mean, I don't know who would have some types of pets, to paint them like your
people have scorpion pets, and again, that movie. So
yeah,
camels. I mean, like there's a camel down the street. What do you mean?
I guess there's a camel down the street. All right, so I really like this game as well. I like a lot of different things. I like the action track, right? I like there's a lot of strategy here. You got to choose when to, maybe you want to take a certain action to trigger an event so your opponent doesn't get it. And I like this clock too. I think it's really fast. Overall, I think the game flows a lot faster than I actually thought it would. This is not what I was expecting it to be when I backed it. It's a lot faster, and I think it's smooth too. It's just triggering these events. There's only 3 different types, and it's very simple, right? You just gain control of Monument, do the Camel Caravan, which is a pretty fun thing to do, and then the conflict. You just go around the conflict. And I think that's an important thing. One, I think it scales really well. One, because of this actions track, right? The less players that you have, the faster that this track goes. But all of the actions and all of the things you do in this game are really straightforward. It's not complex. We might have said we might need to look this up one time, and then we even rolled right there on the spot. Nah, it's fine, right? Because we both kind of came to. So what I'm trying to say is there's not a lot of question marks here. Everything is just really smooth and ironed out. There's like, hey, you do this. All right, you summon one figure. There's no question about like, well, where can I summon them? Just adjacent, right? And this is what adjacency means, right? Monument majority. It's all really straightforward.
Sorry, can I just?
Yeah.
That point just like really excited me because like, and I'm annoyed with myself that I didn't even register that in my brain, because it's like most other games, if not all other games, it's like you're like taking out your phone even though you don't want to be on your phone. Like, wait a second, let's see what Board Game Geek says on this, and like let's Google this or that. And like we didn't have to do that one time, which is part of the reason why it flowed so well. Yeah. And there weren't like any arguments.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think overall, the components are fantastic. The board is beautiful. The minis, CMOD minis. I really like the Ankh powers. Everybody starts off the same way, but throughout the course of the game, everybody becomes a little bit different. I do like the god powers. They're all drastically different. And I think playing as those gods, you can kind of make different moves based on whichever god that you're playing as. And then also the combat cards. I like that everybody has the same card. You play them simultaneously, and they're not crazy like strong, but you got to pick and choose where to play the cards, and then you can look to see what your opponent has played to say, hey, they can't play this on that region, and then you got to get those cards back eventually, so you got to play that card.
Yeah, what's kind of cool about the cards as well is most of them are 0 value.
Yeah.
So it really takes like that strategy, that advanced thinking of like, okay, like I'm not going to get my power in battle from the number on this card. So I have to think about all of these other things in order to, if I want to win the battle, like how I'm going to do that.
Right.
And
exactly.
I know that I go back to this, and I think it's part of the problem is Talisman and Gloomhaven spoiled me, but this is a super cool theme, and the whole thing of the gods and everything, that there's like history there. It would be cool to have it connect, have more of a story, maybe an expansion where like you could go on different missions and have like things weave together and tell more of a story. But like that's just, the spoiled side of me talking. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so fun without that though.
Yeah. I mean, they might be able to do that, but I like these as like one-off games.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah. It would just be cool to have the option, and like,
yeah,
it's kind of like a review for a product, right? Like you get it, you first get it, you're like, oh, this is so great. It's like, okay, well, what's that person's opinion like a year from now when they've been using it for a year? Is it still just as cool, or like?
Well, yeah, that's where expansions come into play.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And I mean, I guess the monuments. Yeah, I probably would have liked to have seen 3D, but I mean that stuff's expensive. But the tokens that come inside of the core box. Like I said, they're different shapes for each different type of monument. They're fairly large, and the colors and the picture on them is very easy to see. It's very easy to see who controls what monument because they're carved out on the bottom, so you can place, kind of slot your token inside of that. So overall,
I was just going to say, it would be cool though if you, because I am not good at something like this, but if you were to paint the individual monuments, how much that would add to the game. It would just be interesting to see. Again, cool. Like the game's totally awesome without it, but like it would be a cool element to see like actually paint it differently.
Yeah.
Or at all, but.
Right. And there are different scenarios that you can try as well. So that's pretty cool. You don't have to do the same setup every single time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So overall, I do really like it. I think it's fun. Again, it's not what I expected it to be. I think it's a lot faster. And it's a lot smoother. To me, I really like it. What would you, if you had to rate it, what would you say?
Out of what?
Out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. And I say that with confidence. I'm not wavering here. 10 out of 10. How about you, babe?
I'd probably say, all right, so here's the thing. If I have to play with the merge mechanic. Right. If I had to play with that, I would probably rate this game an 8. I would rate this game an 8. If I didn't have to play with that, and I probably won't, right? But I might.
Maybe like a house rules.
I might occasionally, and you know what? Maybe more plays.
No merging 2/3 of the way through the game.
Right. Maybe playing it additional times would change my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. With different people, I don't know. But as it stands right now, if I'm playing with the merge, it's probably an 8. If I'm playing without it, I would say it's a 9.
Capitalist rules only. Yeah, and actually, in all seriousness, like I really want to try playing with a third person and trying the merge just to see how it goes. And then maybe we can do like a follow-up, not playthrough. Maybe it depends on how interesting the person is, but a follow-up review with merge factor.
Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy the game. I think it also works exceptionally well at 2. I think it works great. Some of these games, they kind of need maybe a little variant to work at 2 because there may be 3. They're meant to be played at 3 or higher. But this works very well at 2. It's still very quick, again, because of this actions board. You take less turns to trigger those events, which is your clock. So the clock is going around faster and faster with less players. So I think it scales really well at multiple player counts.
Are you able to play solo?
You're not able to play solo.
Gotcha.
No,
okay.
No. Who knows? Somebody might create a fan variant, which generally happens if the company hasn't come out with a solo variant. Sometimes the community does, but
like where you can play with a CPU.
Some games I just think aren't meant to be played solo, and so this might be one of them. But overall, I really enjoy it. Now, the question: where would I rate it between Blood Rage, Ankh, and Rising Sun? Because you probably don't know this, but the same designer that made this worked with Simon, and this is part of a trilogy of games. Blood Rage, the second one was Rising Sun, and now Ankh. And
I didn't know about the trilogy part, but I did know the other part.
So me personally, where I would rate Ankh and the other ones, first, as far as being the one I like the most, is Blood Rage.
Okay, so Blood Rage, it's a similar thing where like you're summoning the people that used to worship you, right?
Well, they're all
but is that correct?
Well, they're all semi-similar.
Right, but is that correct?
What did you say?
So Blood Rage, it's like they used to rule, and then they didn't, and now they're summoning all the people that like all those like little dark pockets that still worship them. Because like when I was like taking a break before we did this review, I was like, this kind of reminds me of like the game where these rulers once ruled, and then they went away, but there are still these dark pockets of people that are still worshiping them, and so you're trying to like draw them out.
Yeah, you're trying to prove yourself before Ragnarok. Like Ragnarok is coming, so you're trying to just gain the most glory by doing.
Okay, so that's really freaking cool, because like I didn't realize it was like a trilogy thing, but like I did, like it resonated with me. Like I recognized like that kind of a theme. So like that's pretty freaking cool. And I haven't played Rising Sun before. Yeah. Or if I did, I have absolutely no recollection, which would not be surprising because I actually did play this once before and I only remember the camel part.
Right. So again, I would rate Blood Rage first. Followed second is Ankh. I would rate this over Rising Sun. And the third would be obviously Rising Sun. I just think this, as far as the flow of the game, I like this a little bit more than Rising Sun. I think it's faster. I think it's a little bit faster. It's easier to explain as well. You don't have those mandate tiles that you guys might know. But I just think it's easier to explain to new players, and it's quicker. It's quicker, especially if you can play this at 2 or Rising Sun you can't. All right, and that's going to be our review of Ankh. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you are watching this video on just the review, I highly encourage you to check out the other video where we do the playthrough. It was a lot of fun. Really had a blast with this one. I really like this game.
I agree, and I do think that it's worth the price. It might seem up there depending on where your price range is for games, but I do think the ability to teach it to people quickly, and it's fast moving and really entertaining. I definitely think it's worth the price, and you can get a lot out of it.
Okay, and there you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Until next time, grab some brews, play some games. Or
non-brews, play lots of games.
Or non-brews, play some games. You got me all mixed up now. So
sorry.
Drink some brews, play some games. See you guys next time. All right, take care.